They say good design is obvious, but great design is transparent. We're pursuing perfect hotel design wherever we can find it. That means speaking to the brightest minds in the hospitality industry. This is the Hotel Design Podcast.
Hey everyone, Glenn here. Listen, these days it's all about LVT, right? Luxury vinyl tile. It's the number one choice in guest rooms for a lot of reasons, but of course, cleanliness and good air quality, particularly now because there's such a heightened emphasis on being clean. Now, my good friends over at Porcelanosa, they've been offering link floor for a really long time now, and it's a high quality LVT solution with the most incredible sound absorption I've ever not heard, right? So you got the cleanliness aspect, you got the sound absorption aspect. Now, to prove that, I had a chance to visit the architectural lab called Intertech in York, Pennsylvania, and I witnessed it myself. Porcelanosa, they've done the research to keep a guest rooms quiet. Plus, you'll have the assurance of passing relevant building codes and creating an environment of cleanliness you know is so important. Please go to porcelanosa.com and learn more. Then click on that link floor tab or drop us a line over here, info@thehoteldesignpodcast.com. That's info@hoteldesignpodcast.com. Let them know Glenn sent you. Thanks. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Hotel Design Podcast. I'm super excited today because a lot of times we just talk to independent designers and those helping influence a wide swath of properties. But what if you're a designer who's focused on helping one company with several distinct brands to help them enter the consumer zeitgeist and all of that? Well, that's what Marriott's doing. And our good friend, Laurie Wouling over there, who's the Senior Director of Global Design, U.S. and Canada, Distinctive Selects Brands with Marriott International, joins us. Laurie, you've got the longest title. I'm afraid we're almost out of time. It's been
Hi, Glenn. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is really super exciting to me, Laurie, because, we've been friends for a while. We got to know each other. Let's not say how many years ago, but it's been a little while now, and it's been fun to see the evolution of Marriott design as we go along. I'd like to start with where you are today, then maybe we'll do a quick rewind and talk about the evolution of it. But how are you feeling about the design aesthetic that the different Marriott brands, such as that are in your portfolio, we're talking AC, we're talking Moxy, we're talking Aloft, those kind of properties. How are you feeling that they're connecting with customers today?
Well, I think it's really exciting to be involved with, the lifestyle brands. Lifestyle has been a design aesthetic that is becoming very popular with our guests. And really, our guests are looking for that experience, and even more so in the last year. They're looking for the experience and also, things that speak to their own lifestyle, which is what is so important about our distinctive brands. And especially with Moxy, AC, Element, and Aloft, those brands are always, catering to our guest expectations. And that is how we handle the design. It's all about what our guest is looking for.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see how the design has changed over the years. And in particular now, as we know, guests have been focused on experience for a while, but this COVID crisis has accelerated all of those trends, made it more important than ever to have something distinct. Whoever came up with the name Distinctive Select Brands, they deserve a raise, because that's a great word to describe it,
It is.
So, Laurie, let me talk to you about the evolution of where design came from, right? I want to go back to the 1990s when I first came into this business, and it was all boring looking fungible product with floral bedspreads. What has it been like since then, being released creatively to keep pushing the boundaries and trust that customers coming into hotels will embrace this sort of thing instead of that boring, same old fungible product we used to get stuck with?
Well, it's interesting, Glenn, because we didn't think it was boring then. We think it's boring now. Right. But, and that was the era of sameness,
right,
of repetition.
Right. And let's just say, for people that don't understand, the reason for that was to create the sense of authenticity. I mean, the sense of the sameness everywhere on purpose. You wanted people to feel confident that wherever they go, they could be guaranteed a specific product. But Laurie, that robbed us of sense of place, that robbed you of creative freedoms. Right. What changed?
Well, I think what changed was all of us changed. As we grew in technology, as we grew as individuals, as different generations matured, we wanted to express ourselves. We wanted to express our individuality. And we wanted to do that through our travel experience as well.
Right. That makes a whole lot of sense. By having a hotel that's rooted in place, it creates that design dialogue with the guests. Now, Laurie, I don't know if you're like me, but back in the day, I would wake up and sometimes I'd forget what city I was in. That is no longer possible right now. Tell us about how Marriott, over the past 10 years or so, going into creating these distinct brands, how that's kind of changed the way that Marriott as an organization focuses on their design.
Well, I think what we've done is focused on contemporary and modern aesthetics. And that basically speaks to our younger travelers, and our older travelers are very accepting of that as well. So Marriott took that lead back in 2012,
Right.
maybe a little earlier, and we adopted that Marriott modern look. We did that in full service, and then of course it caught on in select service. And now what's really amazing is that although we do have prototypical designs still within our brand idioms, we also have a great preponderance of custom design aesthetic. And as you know, we partner with our owners and their particular consultants to develop the design on brand standard and according to the DNA of the brand. And that's where we really got in depth, where we dug into who is the traveler? Who is the traveler that comes to Moxy? What is their expectation? And how do we revolve the DNA of the brand around that traveler's expectation? So that's been a really important key to developing these brands and the ethos behind them. And that's really come about in the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to me. So what was it like making that transition? I think it's important to say, Laurie, that it's critical to have that prototype design, because not all hotel investor owners, operators are seeking to create a full up design all on their own with your help, of course, and their consultants and all. So they want a good place to start from, particularly if they don't have the confidence in that. But it's when it starts to get a little bit more loose with guidelines, which i.e. reads creative freedom to me, that you get to start to have fun. What was that transition like, having to reorient from doing things one way to all of a sudden being able to open up that box of toys and be able to have so much more fun connecting emotionally through great design at your respective distinct brands?
Well, I think the way we approached that was, we put the right designers with the right project. So obviously, we have a recommended designer program, and we developed that program in an effort to do just that, to be able to pair a designer and architect with an owner and a brand where we get the very best design. And in looking at that from years ago, we could use almost any design firm, any architect, because we provided them the prototype and they adapted it to their site. Now we provide guidelines as a prototype or standard, and then the architect and designers begin developing around that brand's ethos for a custom experience.
All right, so I'm curious as to how that works. You want to create the custom experience. That makes perfect sense to me, but I'm curious, Laurie, how does it all come together? How do you work with the ownership in order to create a template from which to move forward that not only fits the aesthetic of the brand that's being represented, but meets the needs of ownership as well?
Well, our Global Design Strategies group, who is the group that creates the prototypes and also creates the standards, they're the ones that create the guidelines that we basically work with owners and their consultants in order to bring that ethos to life. So they have the standards, we sit with them, we work with them throughout the life of the project, beginning with a project kickoff and an immersion into that brand for both the owner and the design team, explaining to them exactly what the meaning of that brand is and how the DNA plays into the brand and what we're expecting in terms of the final product. Then we work with them every step along the way throughout design development and essentially throughout construction until opening.
Who pushes forward who? Or maybe it's a matter of both. The owner or you folks when it comes to pushing the boundaries of design in order to create something new and exciting?
Well, it's a collaborative effort, which
Right.
is something that we didn't have before.
Right.
That's really exciting. So those of us at Marriott who work with these brands and work with these custom projects have an opportunity to really show our design expertise in concert with the expertise of the firms that are contracted by the owner. And then, of course, the owner has their own understanding and their own lens for the brand and for their project. And we bring that all together in a collaborative way. And of course, there's some give and take. And of course, there's some meat in the middle. But we've come up with some really beautiful end product that has really been exciting in the marketplace and has really been a vehicle for our brand's growth.
And we're going to be exploring those in just a second. And for those of you folks listening on the audio only feed, please check the show notes as the visuals will be attached. But we're going to try to use a lot of word pictures over here in order to help you. Now, Laurie, as I'm standing here, I'm looking at the Moxy South Beach, which I know we're going to discuss a little bit later on. But the reason why I bring it up now is owner Mitch Hochberg with the Lightstone Group. He is someone that's very, very focused on creating great design. What is it like working with an owner who really embraces pushing the boundaries on what a Marriott hotel product could be?
Well, Mitch and his team is just a fabulous owner, a great example of an ownership group that really has a passion for design and really feels like their properties make a difference to their guests. And they're right. They have beautiful properties, and it's been really an honor to work with them and their consultants. They hire really the finest of consultants, and we've had great success with them, really adapting the brand and breathing their own design life into the brands.
So what do you mean by adapting the brand so people could really understand that aren't as hyper-focused on design as you? Does that mean finding a way to meet the tent pole features of the design, or does it mean to find new ways to connect with somebody through design? Or maybe it's both again.
Well, it is both again. And yeah, I think that, what's really unusual about Lightstone and their projects is they typically do them in very high visibility gateway cities.
Right. They've got a great Moxy in New York City and Times Square, north of Penn Station, for example. The South Beach property is an example. Sorry to cut you off there.
That's okay. And some more coming in New York. They've got a passion for working with these really well-informed design firms. And what they'll do is they'll take a select service product like a Moxy, and they will adapt it to a very small site in New York City in a adaptive reuse building, and they will infuse 600 rooms into this project and make it seem as though it is hip and trendy and all of the things that Moxy's about. Moxy's about.
It becomes hip and trendy.
Well, that's
design forward and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I got to tell you, Laurie, I love adaptive reuse. I'm a super big sucker for it. I guess number one, it could probably be more complicated, but it could also lend extremely well to the overall design of a project. How do you balance all of that to create that amazing product in a building that already exists?
Well, I think you embrace the building and its character instead of trying to cover it up like we did years ago. It's amazing what you find in an adaptive reuse building and the things that we've uncovered.
It's like, oh my God, look at that floor that hasn't been seen in 50 years, right?
That's right. Or look at those ceiling frescoes that, they covered up with acoustical, drop ceiling. Right. But you embrace the history of the building. You embrace what it's all about. We have a Moxy right now in Houston that is in a previous bank building, an older structure, early 1900s. And it's amazing because they've adapted that, the banking themology in the Moxy. So that one's kind of, on the boards, probably open in 22 or 23.
If they balance the banking philosophy, do I get a free toaster with every check-in?
No, but I think you can open a bar tab.
Okay, cool. All right, please continue. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So, embracing that architecture, embracing the historic nature of the building, and, breathing the brand's life into that history and that architecture. Right. And I think, there are very good firms that are focused on adaptive reuse. And you think about sustainability today and how important that is becoming in our industry. We're hearing now that, lenders are more focused on sustainability and are more apt to come into a project if there is a sustainable effort.
Wow. Well, I think the reason behind that, of course, is financial. As we get back to business and meetings and groups start to come in and individual business travelers, they're focused on this issue. So must hoteliers, and therefore bankers are following. Laurie, I want to take a little look at some of the projects that you are doing over at Marriott and share what's going on. So the first one we're going to look at today is the AC Hotel Scottsdale North. AC is a great brand. It's really up and coming. And I got to tell you, everyone I talk to says, I love the AC brand. Before we get into the specifics of this design, what is overall the message that as a brand AC Hotels wants to send to potential customers?
Sure. Well, AC was originally developed by Antonio Catalán in Spain in the late 90s. And he thought that it was his belief that the business traveler has kind of an insatiable curiosity for urban culture. And he wanted to provide a design effort for a brand where it was a seamless, clean, modern, timeless aesthetic. And, Marriott got involved and partnered with AC sometime around early 2011 or so.
And all dates are not official.
They're not official.
To the point of our life where everything seems a little bit sooner than it actually, more recent than it actually happened. So,
correct.
So please continue. I remember when, the deal was made. Really smart move. Please continue. Sorry.
No worries. And in 2014, we brought AC to the United States. And what's really exciting about this brand is that over the last, I guess, less than 10 years, we have over 200 AC hotels worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah, really exciting. And there's over 100 in the US.
This
brand is really growing, Glenn.
That is growing at a rate that I did not even realize. That's a phenomenal growth story right there. But we're here to talk about the beautiful designs that you all are doing over there at Marriott International as part of the distinctive Select Brands portfolio. So we're taking a look now at the AC Hotel Scottsdale North. I'm going to assume this is a public space in the lobby, right? So yes. What are we looking at right now? And the first thing that strikes me is it really hits the chords of what you said, modern and timeless. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some hotels I look at that are very modern. I'm like, hate to come back in 2 years and see how this feels. This does not feel that way. Please describe what we're taking a look at here.
Sure. This is the AC Lounge. And this property in Scottsdale is 175 keys. And it is Host Hotels and Resorts property. Right. And they partnered with DLR Group out of Minneapolis to work on this hotel with us. DLR has been instrumental in growing this brand with us. They are a great firm, and they have really enveloped this brand really know how to work with it, really know how to pull it through. But the important thing about all of our distinctive brands is that you start, Glenn, with that design narrative.
Right.
You develop a story, right? Design is about storytelling. So you develop this story and then you pull it all the way through the project. And this hotel is so clean and so harmonious. It blends this amazing form and function together, right? Which is really important in this brand. You know, our AC guest is very discerning. They understand design and they want modern and clean. So really what you have here is this beautiful, clean aesthetic in a really kind of a downplayed FF&E with a beautiful architectural envelope.
Could you give some specific examples so the people in the audio version could understand what you're talking about when you say those words?
Oh, in terms of
the cleanliness, the modernness, what specifically are we looking at that highlights those features?
Well, you'll see the very architectural lines, very straight lines, 90-degree angles, very little organic movement. It's very angular and it's very architectural, which is what is that point of modern, that timeless design that really won't go out of style. So this hotel will be relevant for a very long time. You can change out the FF&E, you know, the furnishings, the carpets, but the architecture itself, the interior architecture, will remain relevant for a very long time.
Right. And that's absolutely essential because that not only meets the needs of the guest, but it protects the owner's investment in the future. I remember when, certain brands, when they think about this, they're like, how can we update it quickly? Oh, we could just change a wall, to a different color, maybe throw up different wallpaper, create different artwork. That helps. But this one, you're not even going to need to do that. Maybe as color palettes shift a little bit, you could replace that FF&E, as you were saying, but looks really super spectacular to me. Let's move on to the next photograph, which I guess is outside, and it's got that absolutely stellar Phoenix feel about it. Laurie, what are we looking at over here now?
Yeah, so this is their outdoor space. And as you know, Glenn, biophilic design has become very important, bringing that interior and exterior together.
Right. Just to remind everybody, biophilic design is really about incorporating nature's elements throughout the design, which has been proven to keep people happier and even healthier. Laurie, I'm sure you know this, but when they incorporate biophilic design into hospitals, people wind up checking out quicker because it just leads to better health. Please continue.
True enough. And we'll talk about that even more when we talk about the Element brand.
Excellent.
But, this is such a beautiful example of an exterior space. Now, AC was originally thought of as a business traveler's hotel. And we're seeing them more and more in areas of resort, whether it be an alpine resort, a beach resort, or what we call a sand resort, such as Scottsdale. This property is very near the Scottsdale Municipal Airport. So you do have some of that airport noise, but you feel like this is an oasis, right? You come out and you feel that this is an oasis. We've still, carried through that modern architecture to the outside. So it becomes kind of a seamless transition between the interior and the exterior. And yet we've added features such as fire pits and the pool. The pool is not a brand standard for an AC. However, it is an option, and it was used here for obvious reasons in Scottsdale.
Right.
And you have, obviously in the evening times, you have the option to be warm around the fire pit in the more winter months. And it's just unfettered. You have an opportunity to, travel is cluttered enough.
Yep.
And this brand speaks to the simplicity that surrounds our AC traveler and doesn't complicate their trip any further.
It's interesting you say that because, I don't speak that design dialogue that you do. I'm like, I know what I like when I see it. And there's a lack of clutter here. It's very, that's what works so well for me. You're not trying to fill the space with too much, because when you do that, it starts to make people, I think, feel a little bit uneasy, like there's too much to absorb, too much to look for. But here, the modern aesthetic seems to be very complementary to the environment it's in without overpowering the beauty of the Scottsdale area. Am I correct with that assessment?
You are, absolutely.
All right, thank goodness.
I think you know more about design than you're letting on, Glenn.
I figure my plan is if I pretend I don't know anything about it, then I can get away with mistakes a little bit easier. That's what I'm thinking. All right. Aloft, we're taking a quick look here at the Aloft Columbus Easton. And I feel like, Laurie, Aloft is a brand that's really matured and found its way over the last 10, 12 years it's existed. Maybe it's existed a little longer. I'm just older. I don't remember.
No, that's correct. But we won't rely on numbers to be
exactly
totally correct, right? Yeah, we'll be careful with that.
All right. So we're looking at the property in Columbus East End, and what strikes me most is the use of lighting. I guess it's neon lighting on the outside to create some sort of excitement about it, but it also feels that sense of clean and uncluttered.
True enough. And, Aloft is a brand that's informed by, bright colors and vibrant spaces and technology and music. And Aloft is all about that traveler, the traveler that is looking for, a savvy experience, and they have a lot of interest in, technology, how it relates to music. Aloft has what we call Live at Aloft. So we have live music performances at Aloft, and that really is a draw for this guest. Aloft, as you know, became part of the Marriott family during our integration with Starwood. And it's a great brand. It's really exciting. And, we have, given it a bit of a lift in the last 4 years. This is Aloft Generation 4. And it really raises the bar on this design. And as you mentioned, the LED lights on the exterior of the building, just the beautiful canopy that is, basically adopts the Aloft Raceway kind of look. And you can see here the WXYZ bar, which is the characteristic bar experience in Aloft, is prominently displayed on the exterior of the building. And there you have it.
And then switching over to a picture of the inside.
We do. And this is the Aloft WXYZ bar and lounge. The interesting part about Aloft is that it truly does speak to a contemporary loft space. So you'll see, the unfinished ceilings, the concrete floors, the FF&E is minimal, but it pops. It pops, it's vibrant, it's exciting, it creates that kind of great backdrop for music. And you'll notice the 92-inch, I think it's a 92-inch flat panel screen in the background. And that can be rotated to be used for, different music events.
Interesting.
But for the most of the time, it is vertical in the space, and it has different art pieces that rotate through this digital imagery, which is really great. So it's really truly the only art in the space. Now you'll see on your left that you have kind of a digitized wall covering. So everything speaks to technology. And the rest of it is just a clean loft-like space.
Yeah. All right, I got a question for you in regards to exposed ceilings. It works magnificently here. It carries on that whole vibe. And anytime I see exposed ceilings, I'm an old school Brooklyn dude. So it reminds me of that kind of city living life. But there was one major casino resort that doesn't exist anymore that did that exposed ceiling thing, and it felt like they ran out of money. What's the secret between creating something that looks right or having it turn, and preventing it from turning against you to look like you cheaped out and didn't complete a particular project?
Well, that's an interesting question. And
Yeah.
I don't know of the hotel or the casino that you're speaking of.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. I don't want to blast them.
All right. Okay. We won't do that. But I think what's really important here is the intentional kind of cleanliness of this design as well.
Right.
Instead of trying to infuse a different FF&E design into it or a more traditional FF&E design, this all speaks together. This all comes together and you see, it kind of all fuses together.
Right. It does. And again, in my unexperienced observation, now there's like a wall of different types of panels on the right side of the building. And to me, because it's unique, it's different rectangular shapes and some other shapes in there, it kind of flows into the open ceiling to kind of link the components in a way that I didn't see at that particular resort. That other resort looked completely finished, except for the ceiling. Here, where you have it looks like exposed cement floors, which are done on purpose and look really cool.
They're purposeful.
Right. It fits in with the whole thing. And then therefore the ceiling matches everything else with it. That's pretty cool, Laurie. I get it.
And as you mentioned, the panel system, that's part of what we call reconnect. So it is a divider in the space, but it still is semi-obscure. So guests can see through it. So it still provides that openness, and it's fully powered. So this space functions from basically coffee through cocktails.
Right. That's pretty cool. Yes. And when you're talking about making a property work well, you have to have it go throughout the whole day. Long gone are the days where you have separate areas for each of these things. Nobody's going to spend that kind of money on real estate. We need to make sure every foot is activated financially. All right. So Laurie, another brand that Marriott inherited with the Starwood purchase was Element. And I remember when Element first came out, I was excited about it because of its focus on health and wellness and taking a look at things a little bit differently. Let's talk quickly about this outside photo of the Element Hotel, Nashville, Vanderbilt, West End.
Right. Thanks. This is a great Element property. And Element is really an interesting brand. It's our sustainability and wellness brand in the distinctive arena. And, Element believes that everybody deserves to be well. No matter who they are or where they come from, everybody should be able to enjoy their stay and live the way they live at home. Right? So you'll notice this really is informed by a more biophilic underpinning. And, it's fresh thinking. It's, kind of clever space design. It's a little bit warmer and a little bit cozier than you saw in Aloft.
That felt more urban, where this still has that sense of urbanity, but it's a little bit more suburban country. For example, I'm looking at in the middle of the photograph, that leather couch doesn't necessarily scream 42nd Street to me in Manhattan, right? And then behind it, we're looking at what would you call that whole display and stuff like that? Because it really reminds me of the different compartmentalized furniture pieces my parents bought in the 1960s that seems to have returned today. That great Mad Men aesthetic back there. If I got that.
Interesting.
Right. I mean, to me, that I grew up with pieces that looked like that. Right. They had this whole system. I feel like it was the first ones where you put all different components on the peg systems on the wall. The wood was darker, but it had that same kind of vibe as it did to me with the metal bars connecting it. So to me, it pulls it all together in a really cool way. It creates a delineation of space, but it's also open and keeps the property airy and gives you that wellness kind of vibe to it.
Well, right. And it kind of takes, on a purpose that it divides the spaces in terms of how the people function throughout the space.
Right.
Whether they are conducting an informal meeting in the lounge area, or are they reading? Are they working? Are they eating? We've really now combined all of those different guest functions. Gone are the days of the formal lobby with the hand tufted area rugs that no one sat in the chairs and no one,
right,
had any use for them. It was just a means of, really getting through the space to another level of the use of the hotel. So this, once again, is akin to AC in its modern simplicity, but you'll see that it has more, or it's a little more organic. It's softer. It infuses that nature into it.
That makes perfect sense to me. So how do you continue to think about bringing in those natural elements to create the biophilic design that will make just people feel good about spending time in the spaces? And by feeling good, I mean spending money.
Well, that too. And the one thing that's really important about Element is that one of our key pieces to the design of this brand is in this lobby lounge space, we have 16-foot ceilings. Wow. And with an entire wall of glass that is connected to an exterior terrace space that also the guest can utilize as meeting space, personal space, workspace. We also have an outdoor kitchen space. So it is an extended stay property. So you can grill your dinner for the evening. You can entertain friends in the outside spaces. This hotel typically has a pool. It's always a saline pool. This brand really speaks to sustainability. We have a purified water program where all of the guest rooms have purified water.
Beautiful.
Purified water is available in the public spaces as well. Motion Fitness is our fitness group, our fitness center, where we have really high quality and latest state-of-the-art equipment. And once again, it blends the interior and the exterior, usually enveloped by glass with, really great natural light. And that's how we kind of make that leap from inside to outside and back again.
So how do you think about incorporating the elements of nature into design as you're in the iteration phase? Do you think we want more light, we want more natural fabrics first, or do you come up with design and it kind of works the other way?
Well, I think it's a hand in glove situation. So where you come up once again with a narrative, that speaks to the region, speaks to the social aspect of the location, the history of the location, the climate of the location. You develop a narrative, and then you bring that narrative, along through the entire length of the design until you've got this final product. And by informing the design with the narrative, it always stays cohesive. So you start with the narrative, and then you pull together the design elements around that narrative, and then obviously inform it with that, modern simplicity and the DNA of the brand. So it all comes together really in an integrated way.
Right. And one thing I'm hearing, Laurie, throughout the entire conversation is story always comes first. You have to understand what the point of view of the property is. Without that valuable element, or I said that on purpose, but you won't have a story to begin with. So let's move on to our last brand, a brand that's got a little bit more vim, vigor, dare I say, moxie to it. We're looking at the Moxy Oakland downtown right now. Totally different vibe than what you're getting at an Element hotel. What is the brand looking to do here?
Well, Glenn, this brand is all about fun. Our guests are the fun hunters.
It's fun, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And our guests for Moxy are fun hunters. They're looking for fun.
Right.
And we try to give them the permission to play.
That's
the
fun.
permission to have fun. And that doesn't mean that you don't have to, run this enterprise like a hotel, and we have traditional guests as well. But these guests are looking for something a little bit more. And you'll notice there's a lot of aesthetic here. There's a lot to look at. It's active, it's bright, it's fun. We infuse gaming into the space, into our lounge spaces. We always check in at the bar. You are welcomed at the bar. You check in at the bar. You're given a welcome cocktail when you arrive. And then your stay is really about the public spaces, not about the guest rooms. The guest rooms are more of a micro room. They're about 180 square feet, so they're small. They're very efficiently designed and
they are.
But we really want you in the public space.
Right, which makes sense because this particular brand is appealing towards those types of people that all want to be together or even alone together and have the energy of the public spaces. But the rooms, they were designed in such a way where the economy of size doesn't impact the experience in the room. It's very cleverly designed. But back to the lobby, you're doing a lot of things here, which I think are super clever. Oakland, I'm going to assume it's California and the tech center. I love one little detail where it says Oakland written out in tiles, but instead of an O, it's a heart. And all of the letters are done as almost their 8-bit drawings from old school computers. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So that's a fun little nod right there. I also like check out, the check-in, which is fun. There's a little monster head on the bar where you check in, which is fun. But again, what are you doing here? You've got the open ceiling, which because it's darker colors, it doesn't really noticeable. It kind of fades into the background. But what are you trying to accomplish here with the colors and the tiles and all of that? Because it feels to me more urban than some of the other things we feel, but also comfortable and fun in a different kind of way.
It is more urban, and certainly Moxy was intended for more urban settings. And, what's so great about Moxy is that it has that little bit of grit. It's not polished. It's concrete and black and steel and, not necessarily bright pops of color like Aloft, but it does have some color infused into this, kind of a little bit of a industrial, gritty environment and backdrop. And once again, starting with a narrative, this hotel is in the kind of art district in Oakland. Yep. So you see a lot of nods to art, you see a lot of nods to technology. And Moxy, once again, is fun. You look up at that storage system above the bar, and it's fun.
Right. The design element, but it's also practical because all the bottles of alcohol are wrapped around the entire bar above everybody's heads. The bartender could see everything, grab it easily, but it also removes the clutter from the space behind it. Very interesting.
Well, it's also really efficient because this takes away the need for bar storage. All of this is their backstock.
Right. Fascinating.
Now, remember, these are small spaces. And when you go into an Oakland or, New York, we have small spaces. We don't have a lot of footprint. So we have to be very judicial about how we utilize our square footage, what we can devote to back of the house, because back of the house, really doesn't, make the owner revenue. We need everything in the front of the house, that really is a revenue driver.
And a quick shout out to whoever took the photograph for including the pieces of luggage in front of the check-in area with the Pan Am logo on it. I'm definitely feeling that one. Moxy Oakland downtown. Also, I like the stadium seating here, the cheeky feel of all of this kind of stuff. So is that what you're trying to
It is. And the reason I included this is because I wanted you to really feel that Moxy vibe, that kind of tongue in cheek, the note on the luggage cart, we all have baggage, right? And it's just so great. The found objects that we encourage designers to make a part of these hotels. And this is not on you. The walls look as though,
I was just going to say, you're avoiding perfection with the way that the wall.
Totally avoiding perfection.
Describe it, please.
The walls?
The wall, yeah.
Yeah.
I really like how it looks.
Yeah. Well, instead of doing a wall covering or something that is repetitive and really guarded or contained, this was a wash that was put on the open concrete, and it's made to look as though someone just left and executed this wall because they're an artist. They're showing their creativity. They're utilizing their talents. It's not perfect. And same with the stadium seating. It's not perfect. It's got a little bit of a bend to it. It's But then, of course, the design firm, utilize the Moxy word, on the seats. And, so it's that look and look again moment where people stop and go, that's cool. It's Instagrammable. It gives the guest an opportunity to interact with the design and become part of the design and make it part of their story.
So, Laurie, how do you think about those moments then? Because we all know those Instagrammable moments are the way to connect the experience with the outside world and make people want to stay there even more that are taking those pictures, plus get their friends, family, strangers involved in it as well. So do you think about specific elements that you know that you're going to want people to take pictures of and share?
We do. We certainly encourage it. We encourage Instagrammable moments throughout the property, one of which is our elevators. Our elevators typically function as a photo booth. They'll have an interesting backdrop that speaks once again to the narrative, that people can take a photograph with themselves and a friend, or take a selfie and then shout it out on Instagram and, have it shared. And that really gets that word out that, I'm having fun here and this is a cool place and it's a great vibe and you need to see this. You need to come and experience that, kind of excitement and aesthetic that kind of fuels the connection between people. This is a brand that connects people and really supports kind of social interaction.
Yes, it certainly did. I've had a number of great social interactions at the property in New York City. All right, we're going to briefly look at the Moxy South Beach. If you want a deeper dive on the Moxy South Beach property, check out the catalog of No Vacancy Live, where we do a great conversation with Mitchell Hochberg about putting this property all together. So what are we looking at here, Laurie?
Well, this is the arrival experience. This is check-in. So from the moment you enter this hotel, you realize that you've come into something different, that this is going to be fun. There is so much to look at, and it really kind of, takes your kind of enthusiasm level up a couple notches, and all of a sudden it almost becomes a treasure hunt. What's that? And oh, look at that. And it starts with, the Moxy pink bicycles out front that are bikes to borrow. You'll see there's a pink foosball table. There's, gaming dotted all the way throughout this property. The pool is amazing. The pool is always filled with a tremendous number of pool floaties that are everything from donuts to flamingos. It's got an amazing rooftop space that has an outdoor theater. Really Lightstone brought every fun aspect that really embodies South Beach into this hotel.
Right. And speaking of embodying South Beach, the color palette here is totally different than the other properties that I've seen, because as we know, South Beach is all about those bright, vibrant colors. Creatively, how does something like this differ to you than another city, or is it just kind of the same thing with a different color scheme as you approach it?
Well, no, I think once again, it speaks to its region. It speaks to
Right.
the guest and to really inform the guest of where they are. You
Right.
mentioned that, you used to wake up some mornings
Yeah.
and not really know which city you were in
But to be
because
fair, I was in my 20s. There might have been other reasons for that.
well, even with the other reasons, you'll always know you're in a Moxy.
That's
Right?
it.
And you'll know what city you're in. In the South Beach Moxy, it's light, bright, white. There's a lot of lighting, a lot of color, a lot of nods to heritage, a lot of nods to almost that mid-century modern Miami Beach. So it's Rockwell did a great job of pulling that message through, and it really is screaming every time you turn the corner and enter a new space in this hotel.
Absolutely. Laurie, before we wrap up, how do you learn? How do you make sure that what you're doing isn't repetitive and you continue to push new boundaries with design to create exciting properties that people want to stay in time and time again?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think as a designer first, you learn by listening and discovery. So discovering other brands, discovering other properties, discovering through art, discovering through different artistic mediums, and then bringing that all together to inform, new design. I think design tends to be borrowed. There's a lot of borrowing that goes on, and it gets adjusted as it gets borrowed. So now it's new. It's something that's been informed by someone else's thought processes, and then you take it and reinterpret it and reinterpret it. And then obviously when you're working on hotels, then you reinterpret it through the brand lens. So you stay fresh, you stay connected to the industry, to certainly the vendors, to art, to fashion. Everything that informs design works together within hospitality design. I think hospitality design is so infectious because it really pulls together so many different types of design, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It's public space design, it's personal design, it's meeting spaces, it's restaurants, it's bars, it's outdoor spaces. It's so many different types of design pulled together to a cohesive end product. And once you've been in hospitality design, it's really difficult to leave it or to go do a different type of design. It's so unifying in its satisfaction for designers. We love
totally creative
this aspect of design.
Yeah, absolutely, Laurie. All right, so before we wrap up, what advice would you give folks that are up and coming in the design industry right now?
Yes, I would say stay connected. Everyone needs a mentor, an advocate, and everybody needs to network. Get involved, network, get involved in hospitality design organizations, get involved in different networking opportunities, whether it be at conventions, trade shows, connect with NEWH or IIDA or ASID, and really become, as a student member or a new member in the design community, be involved, and you will learn from others in this community of hospitality design that we tend to embrace those coming into the community, whether it be hospitality, culinary, hotel management. We embrace those that are coming into the industry, and we would love to support all of those who are interested in, collaborating with us and connecting with us.
Hey, Laurie, that's a great piece of advice. I know you're actively involved in the NEWH. We've worked on some stuff through there together.
Yeah.
But if you folks aren't involved in these organizations, well, you're not at the table. If you're there, if you're participating in those types of events, be it the NEWH or any other of these great organizations, you'll get FaceTime and contact with amazing professionals such as Laurie Wouling. And that is going to help accelerate your career, give you new ideas, and help give you that edge. Laurie, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn.
Before you go, how can we find you? How can we learn more about what you are doing over at Marriott?
Well, you can find me at laurie.wouling at marriott.com most any time of the day or night. And as I am completely and totally dedicated to what I do and love every moment of it, and reach out, give me a shout. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. And I'd love to connect with you, and we can talk about anything you'd like to talk about.
Beautiful. I absolutely love it. Laurie, again, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Just hang tight for 1 second. I want to thank all of you out there for joining us for another episode of the Hotel Design Podcast. Remember the things that we learned today about creating great aesthetics that help power properties to profitability. Think about the area that you're in. It's got to be local. It's got to mean something, and you've got to have something that is timeless and not too much of today, or else those owners are going to have to start reinvesting in their property way too soon, and you want them to make money. All right, everybody, make sure you check our catalog of hotel design podcast shows at the Hotel Design Podcast. I'm Glenn Haussman. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.